come close many times. Is it all more sweeter now?
Well, it's enjoyable. Let's put it that way.
Did you somehow feel that this was your year coming into the game?
Well, I thought in the fourth quarter we'd be the best team, and we were. That's great.
What was the difference today?
Well, I think just we're probably in good condition, maybe a little stronger physically in the fourth quarter. Miami has a great team. I got to get in.
Congratulations, Coach. A terrific victory.
Thank you.
Tommy, back to you.
Okay, John. Tom Osborne, vintage Tom Osborne, gracious in victory as he always has been in defeat. Nebraska earns a national championship with a tough win over Miami in the Orange Bowl. Final score 24-17. Bob Costas.
All right, Tom and Chris and John Dockery. And a thought here about Joe Paterno and what must be going through his mind as he watches tonight's game unfold in Pasadena. He has won national titles, of course, before with the Nittany Lions, but 3 times before he has gone through a season undefeated and yet uncrowned as national champion. And in the absence of a playoff system, it will happen again. Even if they beat Oregon as expected tomorrow in the Rose Bowl, they'll wind up number 2 because it has finally happened for Nebraska. In another marvelous and memorable contest at the Orange Bowl, they've finally done it. 3 times now, Nebraska coach Tom Osborne has brought an unbeaten, untied, number 1 ranked team to this game. Again, his reputation for losing here ringing in his ears. Now he's trying to get the water out of his ears. He has borne all of it through the years with a dignified, self-effacing manner, and now his great coaching resume is complete. While those of us in network television aren't supposed to root, I think we can allow ourselves a chance to smile and some words of appreciation for a man who has studiously avoided self-aggrandizement in an age all too devoted to style over substance. As we leave you now, try to imagine what it must be like right now in Nebraska, where there are no major professional sports teams and no other major university within its borders. And in Lincoln now, and all across the Nebraska plains, this first national title in a generation is a wonderful way to start this new year and a wonderful and crowning moment in the career of Tom Osborne. Nebraska national champs, 24-17. Now stay tuned for your local news, except on the West Coast, where it will be seen at its regular time. A reminder, join us tomorrow on NBC Sports for more bowl action. It starts at 1 o'clock Eastern with the Mobile Cotton Bowl, USC at Texas Tech. Then at 4:30 Eastern, the IBM OS2 Fiesta Bowl with the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame against Colorado and Heisman Trophy winner Rashaan Salaam. That's all tomorrow here on NBC Sports. Again, for Tom Hammond, Chris Collinsworth, John Dockery, and all the men and women who put in their efforts tonight at the Orange Bowl in Miami. The Nebraska Cornhuskers are the national champs, and for all of us at NBC Sports, so long from the Orange Bowl.
In a new world, a new standard of excellence, NBC Sports.
Monday, the movie that launched the best new...
The national title, Chris.
Dan, thank you. The 220th victory in Tom Osborne's career should guarantee him a national championship, barring a surprise in the polls. Penn State, of course, playing Oregon in the Rose Bowl tomorrow, but Nebraska had a pretty comfortable lead over the Nittany Lions coming into the bowl. Tommy Frazier, what a great personal story. Many thought his career was over. A potentially life-threatening blood clot in his leg. Comes back, has 2 different stints, 2 very different stints in this Orange Bowl game coming on in the second half and leading 2 touchdown drives.
Yeah, you say 2 different stints. Everybody's going to talk about that, but I don't think there was 2 different stints. I think Tom Osborne put him in the pickle by calling the pass early in the ball game when the interception occurred. Tommy Frazier should have kept running the ball then, and Nebraska would have dominated throughout the ball game. He came back, and what he did was give them the opportunity to run the option. He opened up that Miami defense that was tired because they'd been chasing around Lawrence Phillips that had run hard the entire game. His ability to come back in the fourth quarter, he did it last year against Florida State and Charlie Ward. He marched his team down the field. That experience is why I felt like all along he should have played the ball game. I don't think there's 2 stints at all. I think Tom Osborne put him in the bind.
Well, after 2 ineffective series, Beringer came on and looked pretty good early. I don't think a lot of us expected to see Frazier back in the ball game. He was the MVP of the last Orange Bowl. We'll have to see how this vote turns out. You might want to give the entire offensive line of Nebraska the MVP lead. They really did what they thought they could do, didn't they? They wore down Warren Sapp and company.
No question. I'd give them the most valuable player because they laid on him. They 300 pounds. They just kept banging them and bagging them, and then important. They suckered that Warren Sapp across and boom, they stuck him in the ear hole and ran that fullback trap. And that was the difference because that won the ball game for them.
Nebraska's offensive line dominant. Miami, meanwhile, not able to do anything. Negative yardage in the fourth quarter. Craig, we talked about it. When they don't have an effective running game, they don't win many of these big ball games.
No, they do not do that. She had 29 yards rushing by those guys, and that really was something that hurt them. And I think another thing that really hurt Miami was their inability to catch key passes that Frank Costa threw. I thought Frank Costa threw the ball extremely well. Early in the game, first half, Costa to Marcus Wimberly, 3rd down and 10, it would have converted. He dropped it. Again in the fourth quarter, Miami up 8, 3rd down. He dropped it. Chris T. Jones, usually dependable. That gave Nebraska the chance to get back into the game because they had the punt, turned the ball back over to them. Nebraska went in, tied the game up. You've got to catch the ball when they throw them like that, and those were all very catchable passes.
I think the key part of the ball game was conditioning. In the fourth quarter, the Nebraska defense just wore out the Miami offensive line. They sacked, they had minus yardage in the fourth quarter because the defensive line from Nebraska was in much better physical condition than those big fat offensive linemen from Miami. They just outwore them.
Something very tough for the Hurricanes to stomach. At the start of the fourth quarter, they always hold up 4 fingers. A lot of teams do that, but Miami really believes that no one can outplay them in the fourth quarter, particularly in their own house. And that was as emphatic a beating in the fourth quarter as we've ever seen in the Orange Bowl by an opponent of Miami.
Well, you know, Miami talks about 5 minutes of hell against Washington. Well, they had 15 minutes of hell, of purgatory, and everything else. In the last 15 minutes, the best football team won. Nebraska, they were out-conditioned, and I'll tell you what, I think they wanted it more than Miami. They went and got it.
You talk about out-conditioning. Nebraska, and everybody knows in the country that they are notorious for having a great weight room program. They work extremely hard at being good in the weight room. Their conditioning with weights and with running paid off for them in the heat, because we were down there this week, and it was humid, and in the fourth quarter, they dominated the ball game.
The motto all year long has been unfinished business. They came 2 points shy last year in the Orange Bowl. The business just about finished. For highlights of the ball game, let's go back to Dan.
Thank you, Chris. On Sunday night in Miami, the foe was familiar, so was the scenario. When Nebraska met Miami in the 1984 Orange Bowl, Tom Osborne was a win away from the national title. 11 years later, Osborne was still a win away from his first national title when the Huskers renewed old acquaintances with the Canes. To the Orange Bowl we take you. And there is Coach Tom, 1-7 in Orange Bowls. Osborne tabbing Tommy Frazier as his starting QB, but Nebraska went 3 and out. Frazier deep, picked off by Carlos Jones in Nebraska's second possession. Osborne quickly goes to Brooke Behringer, and Behringer seemed ready. First quarter, the other QB, Frank Costa, going to work, looking for A.C. Tellison. Trent Jones going 35 yards for the score. Miami led it 10-0. Home field advantage, 10-point lead. They look like they had the momentum. Nebraska goes to Miami's 19-yard line, and they try to capitalize. Behringer, Mark Gilman, 10-7 Miami. Some of that cockiness deflating, perhaps. Miami still led 10-7 at the break. Second half, Miami's first drive. Costa goes to Jonathan Harris, 17-7. 44 yards on the score. And once again, Miami looked like they would put it out of reach. Still in the third, Nebraska's defense. Miami at their own 3. Costa. Say hello to Dwayne Harris, 17-9 Miami. Nebraska on Miami's 32. And Behringer muffs the handoff to Lawrence Phillips, who fumbles. It's recovered by James Burgess. So Miami leading 17-9. They've got the ball. Time winding down in the third. Well, Behringer on the side. Frazier comes in. It's still 17-9. And Corey Schlesinger, 17-15 Miami. Nebraska goes for a 2-point conversion. Tom, of course, remembers the 1984 Orange Bowl when he went for 2 and didn't get it. 17-17. Frazier to Eric Alford. Frazier again. Frazier feeling the confidence. Scrambles for 25 yards on a 3rd and 4 from his own 48. He's pumped. So is his team. Miami looks extremely tired. Schlesinger again busting up the gut. 24-17 Nebraska. Nebraska and Tom Osborne finally win the Orange. More importantly, for Tom Osborne, he finally wins a national title. Congratulations to one of the class acts in all of college football. Some questionable calls, I'm sure, for Coach Osborne, including the first and goal from the 3 when he had the pass picked off. Brooke Behringer intercepted there. 10-2 is how Miami ends. Warren Sapp dominating in this game for 3 quarters, running out of gas. Following the game, though, Mike Tirico spoke with Tommy Frazier.
Tommy, how sweet is this?
Well, it's all so sweet. I believe that's what was going to happen, and it did.
Were you down after you came out and Brooke came in?
No, I wasn't down. The coach said that Brooke was going to go in sometime late first, early second quarter. And what? If he was doing good, he was going to stay in. So I just kind of bitch and waited patiently.
What'd you guys do in the second half differently?
Nothing. We just go out and ran our offense. We knew that we were getting. We just ran our offense.
Do you believe that you beat them here?
Yes, I believe it. I said our long coach, we could beat them here. That's not unbeatable here. We beat them, yeah.
If you want to find the national title, just follow Nebraska. Every year since the bowl structure began, when Nebraska has finished the regular season undefeated, either the Huskers or their bowl opponent has gone on to earn the national championship.
We will get back to the Orange Bowl for more a little later, but first, the Sunday conversation. George Foreman. In his world, it's good to be king. Everything in George's world is...
The only team that lost to, the only team I should say that beat Colorado this year was Nebraska. The Buffaloes in the feet.
They played a hell of a game. Congratulate those guys.
Well, when I signed here, that's one of the things that I really wanted to do was come in here and win the national championship. Last year it avoided me, but this year it didn't.
We'll have to see what happens on the vote. But I think because it is a ballot box decision, you know, I tend to have a little bit more of an even keel on these things. If they give it to us, we'll be very grateful, and we certainly will take it home. But if they don't, we'll understand that too. But I'll always be proud of the way we played.
To the pros now, we're Chicago and
Confidence! Oh yeah, baby! Woo!
Nebraska offensive lineman Joel Wilkes. Some of the celebration that started just after midnight Eastern time and continued long into the South Florida morning as Nebraska looks like we'll finally win a national championship. We'll talk to Coach Tom Osborne in a couple of minutes. First, we'll take a look back at another facet of last night's game. Of the 67 offensive snaps, Brooke Behringer took 40. Tommy Frazier took 27, the decisive 27 as it ended up. And when you take a look, this was really a microcosm of his entire season. A long, agonizing wait for Tommy Frazier, who finally got a chance to play out the scenario that he thought would happen in the national title game.
That's what he said on television. He said he's going to come out there and lead our team to the national championship, and he did that.
There was a set plan at the beginning to go with Tommy through most of the first quarter, bring Brooke in late in the first quarter or at the beginning of the second, and that's basically what happened.
Tommy Frazier had waited 3 months for his chance to return to the field. And after 13 first-quarter snaps this Orange Bowl night, Frazier had 3 yards rushing, 1 interception, and 1 seat back on the bench.
I was very confused, you know, because I was wondering, hey, I went out there, I wasn't doing bad, and here I'm not too serious, I'm on the sideline. But, you know, Coach Gill came up to me and told me that just stay focused, that, hey, he's out there moving the team well, that I might, if the opportunity comes, they're going to give me the call and go back out there and do what I can do best.
He wasn't down. I guess he was more like frustrated, and he just needed a boost. And when Brooke went in and was doing great, I mean, I'm pretty sure that picked him up to play a better game.
The middle of the game, just like the middle of Nebraska's season, found Brooke Behringer at quarterback. The junior moved the team on a couple of drives, but his key mistakes left Tom Osborne with a decision. Fourth quarter, trailing by 8. Title hopes again faded. The coach went back to his starter for just his 3rd series in 3 months.
Just kind of an instinctive move. It wasn't any plan, and Turner and I talked about it on the sideline, Turner Gill, and we thought it was time to put Tommy in, and Tommy responded very well.
Despite a nagging cold, Frazier's fresh legs, his late-game quickness, and option ability opened up creases for Corey Schlesinger's game-tying and winning touchdowns.
Tommy Frazier's running the option. If you're a linebacker, who are you going to focus on? You know, you're going to say, well, I got to stop Tommy Frazier, and then, you know, Tommy starts giving the ball inside, they're overrunning the fullback, and it showed, and Corey ran wild on him.
It's a pretty long year for you.
Yeah, it's been a long year, and that's the way it is.
And joining us now, Nebraska coach Tom Osborne. A thought on Tommy Frazier, not his in-game performance, but the way he personally handled a very difficult season for a young man.
I thought Tommy showed a lot of maturity. You know, at one point there was some question, worst-case scenario, whether he'd ever play again or not with those blood clots, and he never seemed to waver, never powdered around or felt sorry for himself. Went through a fairly difficult regimen of shots for Coumadin and you know, various blood thinners. And
I guess according to what the medical people say, he was a great patient, and he really prepared himself well for this game.
A couple of quick thoughts from you, personally. Was there a moment, you're the ultimate team man, was there a moment last night when you got by yourself, you and your wife, and just realized that finally you accomplished something that has been so long sought after?
Well, yeah, we obviously thought about it. I guess the vote isn't in yet, so I don't. You never say never or whatever. But certainly it was gratifying to see our team play the way they did, and to come from behind and beat Miami in Miami. That's a challenge, you know. So we were really pleased with the whole season, and particularly the way they responded last night. Quite a bit of adversity.
Two quick ones. The polls, you promised Joe Paterno you wouldn't politic, and you guys have done that all the way through. Do you feel that there's any way that Nebraska won't be national champion?
Well, yeah, you know, Joe and his team, they're going to play great today, I'm sure. And so who knows what will happen. People are going to have to vote. Joe's got a great football team. I wish we could have played. I wish some way we could get that done, you know.
For you, back on the recruiting trail, will you continue to coach? Is this a point where you'd stop and say, let me look back and wonder if I want to keep doing this?
I'll look back for a couple hours. I'll be out on the road tomorrow. So I enjoy coaching. Nothing else I'd rather do.
Tom Osborne, congratulations. Thanks for joining us. Let's go back to Chris Fowler. Chris?
Mike, thank you. Osborne silencing those whispers that have been heard in the state of Nebraska for the past couple of months that he might retire if his team won the title. By the way, last night in Lincoln, fans stormed Memorial Stadium, wanted to rip down the goalpost. They were too late. They'd already been taken down for the winner. Osborne, a cautious man, but here's why we think it's a foregone conclusion that Nebraska will win the national championship when the polls come out tomorrow. The margin over Penn State was pretty convincing. They had 26 more first-place votes. In the coaches poll, the Associated Press poll was a little bit closer, but most of the national media that have votes were watching the Orange Bowl last night and had to be impressed. Is that the way it should work out? Is that the way it will work out, in your opinion?
Well, let's take a look at how we got here in this situation. Last October, there was a split poll. Penn State and Nebraska both had one of the polls. Then Nebraska beat Kansas. Penn State beat Indiana. But the perception was it was a very close game, where it actually wasn't. Actually, Penn State lost the chance at the national title with a Hail Mary pass, or else they'd have got there number one.
Unfortunately, and that's the way voters look at it. They see the box scores. They don't look into the game, know what happened there. And I agree with Tom Osborne. Unfortunately for him, it's not going to happen. He will not play against the Penn State team, and that's the same statement that Joe Paterno will make after this ball game today. He'll beat Oregon, and he's going to say, boy, I wish we could play a great Nebraska team. It'd be a dynamite shootout.
All year long, the pollsters have been impressed more by defense than by big scores. Nebraska's defense great again last night. But Patrick, a field goal that hooked just to the left and maybe some officiating calls. They lost to Florida State by 2 points. All year long, the motto was unfinished business. Consider the business finished after last night's game against the Hurricanes in their own house. Osborne starting Tommy Frazier. The decision didn't look good early. Frazier throws deep on first down after the Huskers had driven well on the ground. It is picked off. Barringer warms up, replaces Frazier after 2 series. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes' offense is humming. Frank Costa flips it out to Trent Jones, who gets in the end zone, 10-0 after 1 quarter. Then it was 10-7. Then 17-9 after a safety. Barringer, following a messed-up punt by Miami, the first play following that, throws the interception. Barringer out, Frazier back in. The second play of the first drive when Frazier came back to the ballgame, Schlesinger gets in the end zone. Nebraska back within 2. Oh, to have a 2-point conversion 11 years ago. Instead, he gets one right here to tie the game at 17. Nebraska gets the ball back. Frazier on the option again. Keeps it. 25 yards. Miami's defensive line just getting worn down. Warren Sapp played well, but the Husker O-line, too much. They trap Miami's defensive line. Schlesinger gets in the end zone. That's the winning touchdown. Tom Osborne, a cautious man. He's not counting the national championship just yet. When the votes come in tomorrow, Nebraska's lead, if anything, should grow in the polls. Afterwards, we asked Tommy Frazier about how he felt. Huskers dominating in the fourth quarter. Offensively, the defense doing a great job. Miami not converting a third down. And Frazier talked about coming back in the ballgame after being removed at the end of 1 quarter.
I was very confused, you know, because I was wondering, hey, I went out there, I wasn't doing bad, and here I'm not too serious, I'm on the sideline. But, you know, Coach Gill came up to me and told me that just stay focused, that, hey, he's out there moving the team well, that I might, if my opportunity comes, they're going to give me the call and go back out there and do what I can do best.
We just felt like maybe Tommy, his quickness, maybe an option or two in that fourth quarter would help us, and so just kind of an instinctive move. It wasn't any plan, and Turner and I talked about it on the sideline, Turner Gill, and we thought it was time to put Tommy in, and Tommy responded very well.
Were you doing some different things when Tommy came back in that helped open the fullback eventually in those 2 touchdowns?
A little more options. I think the thing we had done is we had about 23, 24 practices and really had conditioned hard. And we felt, Mike, that if we were close going in the 4th quarter, we'd have a great chance in this ball game because we're a pretty strong physical team, and sometimes we just wear people down a little bit with our running game, and so I think some of that happened. And I'm not in any way knocking Miami. They've got a tremendous defense, but sometimes the 2-yard gains in the 1st quarter become 5 and 6 in the 4th quarter, and that's what happened.
But the 4th quarter, I was just physically exhausted and didn't, have much energy left to even get the ball downfield, and my arm was very tired. And, I guess they just kept getting up out of habit.
2 consecutive drives, they won the score. They won the ball game. That's what they had to do, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I think America wants to see Nebraska play against Penn State. That's not going to happen. Craig, we talked about Nebraska's dominant offensive line wearing down the Canes, but they've had a lot of teams over the years with great offensive lines. Why was this Nebraska team able to get the job done?
I think just the conditioning level in their defense. I think the defense was underrated going into this ball game, and Miami's inability to run the football really hurt them. You saw where Frank Costin was sacked 5 times. That really doesn't tell the story. This guy was hit throughout the ball game. And in terms of Miami and that running game, or lack of, I thought in the 4th quarter when they couldn't get off the goal line, when they couldn't establish any momentum, that killed the Miami Hurricanes, and they had to resort to the pass on 3rd and long. And there's no way you can do against that, against a team like Nebraska secondary.
Well, Craig, Nebraska's Hall of Fame coach Bob Devaney told me in Colorado on October the 29th, this was the finest Nebraska team he had ever seen in Nebraska. He's been there for 45 years. That said it all. Interesting point here. Bobby Bowden wins his first national championship at the expense of Tom Osborne last year. Tom Osborne gets his in Miami this time. Poetic justice.
Tom Osborne, a very cautious man, though.
He got it.
All precincts have not reported, but I think Nebraska had a pretty significant lead in both polls going into this ball game. And if you beat Miami that impressively in their house in the 4th quarter, it's hard to imagine the pollsters flip-flopping. But then again, anything can happen in the poll system. Coming back, we'll talk about the Rose Bowl as Penn State watched last night in frustration. They prepared for the Oregon Ducks. We'll check in Pasadena with the latest from there. We continue at halftime. For the Cornhuskers in the coaches' poll, an emphatic margin and huge sentiment for Tom Osborne among the coaches. The AP poll is a little bit closer. The margin is 15 points. Huskers had 14 more first-place votes, but many of the media who vote in the AP poll were covering the Orange Bowl game, so that's obviously a key factor there. We'll have to wait and see when the polls...
He releases it. Williams and Lynch in the backfield. Barker's going to back.
Then it was Schlesinger again, this time from 14 yards out to seal the 24-17 victory for Nebraska. The MVP honors for Frazier and a probable first national championship for Tom Osborne.
The process is more important than the trophy or whatever. We haven't even actually got it. I'm really pleased with the way the team played. Really pleased with the way they played in the 4th quarter.
I guess this one game erases everything. The 7 previous games that we lost, when we came in here and won in Miami, teams, they say we had 1 point underdog, they say we couldn't do it, but we proved everyone wrong.
The final poll results will be announced tomorrow and should make it official that Tom Osborne has captured his first national title in 22 years as head coach at Nebraska. And we've noticed that by the pool, some of the students down here have been cramming, not for finals, but for the CBS Sports Ultimate College Football Quiz. And we will put you to the test.
Today with a surefire national championship under their belt. For at least one Sioux Falls family, that means driving home the victory using their garage. If Nebraska had lost last night, the plan was to cover this mural with a black blanket. But since the Cornhuskers won, a #1 sign is the only addition. The Pro Image shop in the Empire Mall says that it will be the first one with championship shirts available for Nebraska, possibly as early as tomorrow. The store says the owner is a huge Nebraska fan, and he wants them just as soon as possible. Well,
from the Cornhuskers and today's results next.
17-7 Miami. You missed a comeback which should assure the Cornhuskers their first national championship in 23 years. An unsung hero emerged in the 4th quarter. Fullback Corey Schlesinger He went 15 yards for a touchdown here to make it 17-15. Miami still had the lead, but then the Huskers went for two. Tommy Frazier sets up and hits his man over the middle. That's Eric Alford. Tom Osborne's team had it tied up 17-all. Osborne's toughest decision really all week, and everyone asked him about when to play Frazier, when to play Behringer. Well, in the fourth, it was Tommy. There's a 25-yard pickup, and to stop the option, he must stop the fullback Schlesinger with the game-winning touchdown right there. Nebraska wins it by 7. The final was 24-17.
Tired saying, well, what would it mean to you to win a national championship? Would you feel like a whole person? Or hey, I felt like a whole person all the time, but we'll have to take a new angle next year. I enjoyed national championships as much as an assistant coach as I did this one, if we have won it indeed. But the process is really more important. I've enjoyed the season. I've enjoyed the way the players have responded. And naturally, if we do get a trophy at the end, that's frosting on the cake.
Kajana and the Nittany Lions makes it a pretty good spot to be in on Monday, following the Cornhuskers' victory over Miami at the Orange Bowl in the Orange Bowl. Back in Lincoln, Nebraska Governor Ben Nelson called the game's final 15 minutes the greatest fourth quarter in Nebraska football history, and with it, according to the coaches' poll, a national championship. Now, you wouldn't get an argument here. 15,000 just packed their Sports Center. Tommy Frazier, Brooke Behringer went home for some quality family time. Tom Osborne, the man so many were so happy for, showed up the way he'd wanted to for 22 years as a national champ.
I wasn't one of those people who was pulling against Penn State. I imagine there's some Nebraskans who were hoping that Penn State would lose, but I didn't feel that way at all. Probably celebrate by going somewhere and trying to catch a bonefish or something like that. Really wild, really a crazy explosion emotionally, I guess.
Those comments actually before the official coaches poll came out. Nebraska, they go from 44 first place votes in the last poll to 54. Where did they get those extra 10? Well, they got them from Penn State, who dropped 10. Colorado 3. Bill McCartney, in his last season at the school, gets them a number 3 ranking. Alabama 4, Florida State at number 5. Still the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, Penn State and Oregon. Would Nebraska's win have any effect on the Nittany Lions mentally? Joe Paterno looking for his 16th bowl win, or Rich Brooks was just looking for number 1. The nation's number 1 offense explodes. First play from scrimmage, Kajana Carter right at you. 83 yards into your living room for a touchdown. Put the Lions up 7-0. Would Oregon's Danny O'Neal duck his head and hide? I don't think so. O'Neal, with a big passing day, hits Josh Wilcox, 33 yards, down to the Penn State 1. O'Neal, play action. Might as well give it to the guy who got you there. Wilcox, the 1-yard score. The game tied at 7. And Joe Pa knew he was in a football game. Third quarter, Penn State up 7. Kerry Collins under a heavy rush. He's picked off by Reggie Jordan. Jordan rumbles down to the Lions' 17-yard line. That set up O'Neal. Watch the beauty lob to Christian McLemore, who skies for the 17-yard touchdown, tied at 14. The momentum shifts on the ensuing kickoff. Ambrose Fletcher follows the wedge, breaks the kicker Matt Belden's tackle, and races 72 yards before Isaac Walker able to tackle him down from behind at the 21. That set up Kajana Carter. The scamper, 17 yards untouched for the Penn State touchdown, 21-14, Penn State. At that point, Joe Paterno's Nittany Lions go on to win it by a score of 38-20. Penn State, the first undefeated, untied team to win a Rose Bowl since Ohio State did it in 1968. The Buckeyes, well, they were number 1 that year. This was Joe Paterno's 5th undefeated season in 29 years in Happy Valley, but only one of the 5 have brought him a national championship.
And I'm not telling you it's tough for a league or anybody, but I don't think we should get a rap that we have not played a tough schedule, nor would I want to put that rap on Nebraska. I think both teams are very, very fine football teams, and it's a shame either both of them can't be national champs, so we can't have a playoff.
We did all we had to do. We went 11-0. The October schedule Nebraska did in the regular season. We won the Rose Bowl by 18 points. I mean, what more can we do to get a national championship? It's a shame we're not going to get it. It's been an inspiration to myself, the rest of the team, and national championship coach this year.
The Penn State, they're good and all, but we gave them all their points. The defense, I think they only had one drive. We did not come here to give them a good fight and go home with a smile on our face. We came here to win and win only, and second place is not good enough for us. We're disappointed.
More on Danny O'Neill, who shared MVP honors with Kajana Carter. O'Neill, 41 of 61, 456 yards to set the passing yardage record in the Pasadena Bowl game. Ironically, the 4 names and numbers you see before you, all that yardage, all 4 of those quarterbacks lost their respective games. 2 INTs really hurt O'Neill. Craig. Sure that both polls came out the way they were supposed to with Nebraska #1. Apparently, that's where Tom Osborne and I differ.
I was asleep, and somebody called 3 in the morning or something like that, I think from the coaches' poll, and notified us that we had been named champions, but I really didn't worry about it. You know, I guess I was like Thomas Dewey. I just figured the votes would come out, and I went to bed.
Congratulations, Tom. I think you did a super job, and you know how I feel about you and about your team. I think you've got a great football team, and if we can arrange it, let's play in about 10 days. All right, Tom?